Welcome everyone. I'm just gonna start in a few moments here once everyone gets their audio dialed in. Wait for a little bit of a critical mass. That seems like a good number. So welcome to today's Edge user group meeting. If you haven't joined us for one of these before, I'll just cover a few technical details. This is Zoom webinar, not Zoom meeting. So you don't have to worry about interrupting us. Your microphones and cameras are disabled by default. So essentially your ways of interacting with the panelists are twofold. You can use the chat, just like you would with Zoom meeting, but keep in mind that if you want everyone to see your message, and that includes other attendees, you'll have to select everyone from the drop-down menu. On your version of Zoom, it might say all panelists and attendees. If you have a question specifically for the panelists, we ask that you use the Q&A, the little button on your webinar dashboard. Those can be seen by everyone. Other people can add their own comments and upvote them. You can ask those anonymously if you want to. And it makes us a little bit easier for us to manage the Q&A when we get to that portion of the meeting. So if you have any technical issues, feel free to reach out to me, but otherwise, without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to Anne, who will be moderating today. Anne?
Hi, thank you, Mike, and hi, everyone. Welcome to the August edition of the Edge user group. My name is Anne Koenig, and I am an Associate Director with the International Department at ACRO. In our session today, we'll give you updates on what's been happening in Edge for the last month and tell you a little bit about what to expect in the future. Today, we have several members of the IESC, the International Education Standards Council, who will present updates on what's been going on with EDGE within the last month. And then after you hear from us about our updates, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions and also to learn about the best use of the resources we have in EDGE for your use in evaluating international credentials. So please let me introduce my colleagues around the clock here. We have Nancy Katz, who's the Director of Evaluation Service Incorporated. And Emily Tse is from International Education Research Foundation. Those are both evaluation services. And also Robert Watkins, who is with the University of Texas at Austin. We are all members of the larger group, the International Education Standards Council. You'll see our pictures and names here. We represent the gamut of educational institutions in the United States and also evaluation services. And we're very proud to have fellows in our group, younger colleagues who are gaining valuable experience by working with us on specific projects. We have had, this is our third time of having fellows, and we're very happy to have them. So this is our International Education Standards Council group. And we are the group, we are a voluntary group of colleagues who review international credentials for ACRO's EDGE database. So we not only ask our colleagues to submit their own research, but we also do research. We review the research that's been done on specific credentials. We discuss what the credentials represent, and we discuss and approve recommendations, or what we call credential advice, for credentials within EDGE. And we usually discuss and vote to come up with a consensus, or at least a majority of recommendations for each credential. So that's a little bit of background about our council. Our agenda for today's meeting, we're going to be, we spent some time in the last month looking at changes in Sri Lanka. We'll look at those, and also Ghana. We have some new information about India, and we have some information about Scotland. We also want to mention some changes in our international activities listserv, which is now a Google group with a new email address, and also that our International Institute has been changed to October and registration is now open. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and answers. So let's begin with a poll to find out who's joining us today. Take a few moments to answer these questions if you would, so we can get an idea of who's here today. What segment of the evaluation world do you represent? Is this your first user group? And are you an EDGE subscriber?
And I did have Jeopardy music queued up for the last webinar I ran, but I forgot it for this one. I'll keep this open for another 10 seconds.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, we had 100% participation there.
Great. So it looks like the majority of our participants today are from institutions, and about 2/3 have been here before. Let's see, what's our third one? And wow, almost everyone is an EDGE subscriber. Great. So today you'll learn what's new in EDGE, and folks who are not EDGE subscribers will learn a little bit about how EDGE operates and what we do. Great. So now I'm going to turn it over to our colleague Robert Watkins from the IESC, who will tell us about some updates for the Ghana profile.
Thanks, Ann. Sure. What we've got here is actually something that was pointed out to us by an EDGE user some months back now, noting that that we did not have the grading scale for the West African Senior School Certificate Examination in EDGE in appropriate countries, specifically Ghana. That's what they were looking at the time when they wrote into us. And just a reminder to all the users out there and those that are new, this may be new information, but EDGE was rolled out about 15 years ago. Many of the country profiles, entries date from that time period. We try to make adjustments. Obviously, that's the beauty of EDGE. It's dynamic, but we don't always get to 232 countries all the time. And it just so happened that we had not gotten the WASSCE grading scale, which is alphanumeric, A through F, 1 through 9, in there alongside the one we did have, which was the older senior secondary school certificate grading scale. So after a little research, turns out that there are 5 West African countries that are involved with the West African Examinations Council, WEC, these being Ghana, Nigeria, the Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Now, these 5 countries all implemented the WASSCE that's administered by WEC, and so they use that grading scale. So what that means is that in addition to Ghana that you see here, and in fact, if you have EDGE in front of you, as I do at this moment, you'll see that this new information has already been put into the Ghana entry. It has not yet been put into the other 4 countries, but it will be the standard wording that you see in Ghana with slight tweaking, because each of these countries implemented the new grading scale for the WASSCE at different times. For example, the one longest back that did it was the Gambia, 1998, followed by Nigeria the next year, and so on, up to Liberia, which instituted it in 2013. So now that we've got Ghana up, I will go in and check with the rest of the group, of course, get their sign off and their approval, but I will add the wording that you see in Ghana about the WASSCE with a slight tweaking that's peculiar or pertinent to the other 4 countries. One final note before I turn it back to Ann, and that is, while the WASSCE grading scale is the same in all 5 countries, because WEC is administering that exam, the prior grading scales that were used for the pre-WASSCE senior secondary examinations that were used in each of those countries, they differ a little bit. They're very similar. They're numeric, not alphanumeric. They're 1 through 9, and 4 of the 5 all use that, but Ghana did not. Ghana uses a letter grade scheme for their pre-2006 senior secondary exam grading. And so you'll see that slightly different from the others. Otherwise, the standard language that you see in Ghana right now in EDGE will be used in the others with, again, that slight tweaking for each of the countries, so it's country specific. And with that, I'll turn it back to Ann.
Thank you, Robert. Now we'll continue on the topic of grading scales, and Nancy will lead us through some new developments in EDGE on the India grading scales for secondary school.
Thanks, Ann, and good afternoon and greetings from Chicago. Once again, we reviewed the secondary school grading scales that were for India that were in EDGE, and we updated some information. Note, there are different grading scales for standard 10 and for standard 12, as indicated in EDGE. There's also a variety of grading scales that we honed in on to review. One, there were 4 items that we did. We looked at the general, we have the general standard 12 examination results. We have the higher secondary certificate, the Central Board of Secondary Examinations, as well as the Council for Indian School Certificates. Please note that when you go into Acro EDGE, if you're on there as Robert was, and I am too, looking at it, dual screens, you'll see that we have these all separated. We did verify, and we should note, please make sure that you look at the grading scale on the transcripts that you receive or the mark sheets that you receive from the individuals from the different boards, just in case there's a slight difference. In India, there's always an exception to the rule. We do recommend that there be a plus and minus, as there are numerous grade ranges, especially from the Central Board of Secondary Education and the Council for Indian School Certificates. We also recommend the grade of D for standard 12. In many US high school programs or high schools, you can graduate from high school with a grade average of D, and we do believe that there is this grade of D at the standard 11 and standard 12 level of education. This has been posted in EDGE. What is listed in EDGE today is the updated information. Slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. And also looking at India, and as many of you know, there are numerous degrees in India of various lengths. When we were looking at the Bachelor of Arts, Science, and Commerce, we noticed that the Bachelor of Fine Arts was also lumped into the 3-year degree programs as on EDGE, as equivalent to 3 years of undergraduate study. However, unfortunately, the Bachelor of Fine Arts in India could be 3 years of study, 4 years of study, or 5 years of study. So what we did was we pulled out the Bachelor of Fine Arts from the 3-year Bachelor of Arts, Science, and Commerce, and we will be soon, because we're going to be writing up and then recommending how to write up the Bachelor of Fine Arts. Please note that once again, there are different entrance requirements for the different degrees. For example, in general, the 3-year Bachelor of Fine Arts requires the higher secondary certificate or standard 12. The 4-year degree usually requires also a standard 12 certificate for entrance into the program. So you've got 2 Bachelor of Fine Arts, the same entrance requirement, but different lengths of the program. Then you have a 5-year option. And with the 5-year option, in most of the programs, but not all, entrance is standard 10, the secondary school certificate. So you're doing a program that does secondary and post-secondary level study. But I have found one 5-year Bachelor of Fine Arts program where entrance is the higher secondary certificate, standard 12. Very, very important. Check the entrance requirement to your Bachelor of Fine Arts program in India, and that will make the difference in the equivalency. I also let you know the Bachelor of Fine Arts can cover anything depending on the university, from music to dance to just what we would traditionally consider fine arts, painting, drawing, ceramics, photography. And all those degrees are offered under the umbrella of a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. In addition, depending on whether it's a 3 or 4 year or even 5-year program, the length of the master's degree varies. So we're continuing to work on the MFAs, but we will be posting equivalencies for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in the near future. Thank you. Back to you, Anne.
Thanks so much, Nancy. Now we're going to move from India into Scotland, and Emily will give us updates on various credentials in Scotland. Take it away, please, Emily.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So we did make a number of updates for Scotland, starting with the overview. What we did was we added the Scottish Credit and Qualifications Framework, or the SCQF. Now, the SCQF is the National Qualification Framework for Scotland. And what that does is it explains a number of things. It explains the relationship between all the major Scottish qualifications, as well as the level of difficulty, as well as the size of the qualification. So for the SCQF, there are a total of 12 levels, 12 being the highest or the most difficult, representing, for example, the doctorate degree. And in terms of the size, they are expressed in terms of credits. So for example, one SCQF credit is worth approximately 10 hours of learning, which includes lecture and study time. And so when you're talking about higher ed, 1 year of full-time academic study is 120 SCQF credits, which is similar to what you find elsewhere in England, Wales, and Germany. On to the next slide. Also, still in Scotland, what we did was we also added the graduate certificate and the graduate diploma. The certificate is approximately 1 semester long, and the diploma is approximately 1 year. In terms of the entry requirement, it is normally a Scottish bachelor, but there can be variations. It is also often intended, although it can vary, it is often intended for bachelor degree holders in a different field. For this reason, the graduate certificate and the graduate diploma sits on SCQF levels 9 and 10. So levels 9 and 10 are where you would also find this Bachelor Ordinary and the Bachelor Honors. So for this reason, we would recommend an additional semester and an additional year of undergraduate credit, respectively. The graduate certificate and the graduate diploma are not to be confused with the Scottish postgraduate certificate or the Scottish postgraduate diploma, as those sit on SCQF level 11 and is considered graduate in level in the way we regard graduate study. Okay, that was a mouthful. On to the next slide. We also did some updates to the grading scale section for Scotland. What we did was we posted what you see here, which is a percentage scale that a number of institutions use, along with the degree classification. On to the next slide. What we also noted, and when people took it away, was that there is no standardized centralized grading scale for Scotland, for the higher educational institutions. You will see quite the gamut and variety, so it's really important to refer to the university transcript and over the university website for the information. Sometimes you'll see them to be percentage-based, as I showed in the earlier slide, or it can be letter-based, A, B, C, D. It could be number based. For example, it could be out of 20, out of 18, out of 22. And it can also be alphanumeric, A1 through G3, for example. So what we've shown here on the right is the grading scales for the University of Aberdeen, one of the ancient universities in Scotland. So from 1992 to 2014, it was actually out of 22, between 0 and 22, but then in 2014, they switched to an alphanumeric scale from A1 through G3. Now, my guess is that because they felt that the letter grades were more understandable and more recognizable. Again, your A, B, C, D. But because previously it was out of 22 points, if you will, they wanted to be able to make further distinctions. So A was further drilled down to A1 through A5, B was further drilled down to B1 to B3, so on and so forth. So that's what we have for the Scottish post-secondary grading scales. The takeaway is that there's a large variety and you really need to consult the transcripts. Okay, so that's it for Scotland, and we'll move on to Sri Lanka. Next slide. Yes. So it was brought to our attention that there was a change in the program for the Bachelor of Veterinary Science, or the BVSC. In terms of the veterinary medicine education in this country, it is mainly done at the University of Peradeniya, where it was previously a 4-year program, but just recently it was changed to a 5-year degree. The curriculum you see posted here. So now what they do is they have the first year still in foundation sciences, and then the next 3 years devoted entirely to the theory of veterinary medicine, veterinary science. And then the 5th year devoted to clinical education, your hands-on training. So what we did was we went into Edge and updated it to reflect that it's now currently a 5-year program. And that's it for Sri Lanka.
Thanks, Emily. If we could just go back to the previous slide, please, for a second, Mike. This is Anne speaking again. And I just wanted to point out to everyone the importance of doing primary research. You can see this curriculum grid shows us exactly what the program is at this university, shows us the credit hours, shows us the courses and modules and practical training that are involved in each segment of the program. And this is the primary resource for information about this program and this credential. It's so important if you have a question about a credential you've never encountered before, or if you have something that you're familiar with, but what you're looking at right now looks different than what you've seen in the past. It is so valuable and crucial to try to get the most official information you can about what you're looking at. And it is just a gem and a treasure when you can find this information on an institution's website, either called curriculum or plan of study, various terminology throughout the world. But this shows very clearly what's going on with this veterinary science degree and the change that was made from the previous structure. Thanks so much for that, Emily. Let's move on now, just to tell you about some things that are going on at ACRO, some resources available for you. We've got the International Exam Status Report that's curated by our colleague at UCLA, Jonathan, and he keeps track of what's going on around the world with external examinations. So if you would like to add something to this spreadsheet, our knowledge base on this, you can email Jonathan. His email address is there on the slide for you, and this is a resource that you can use to keep up to date about what's going on around the world as far as examinations. Next, please. We've got a couple of different ways that you can connect with colleagues. The news for our international activities group is that it has moved to becoming a Google group. And if you were already signed up for it, you received email about how it has changed and how you now can subscribe to it. And if you have any questions about that or anything else related to EDGE, you can email edge@acro.org. You can also send any questions about credentials or credentials that you might have, sample documents, etc., to the IESC, the group who's talking with you today. And you can very quickly contact us by using the Contact Us button in the EDGE database. And also, if you should have any customer service related problems with your EDGE subscription, use that Contact Us button in EDGE to quickly make the contact you need. Next, please, Mike. Just a couple of other news items from ACRO. If you haven't already got it, I highly recommend this new edition of our Guide to Bogus Institutions and Documents. And I'm not just saying that because I'm one of the co-authors, but I have a fabulous team of co-authors who worked on this publication. Our original publication was done in 2006. And oh boy, have we added a lot since then. So please take a look at this publication to give you guidance and information about the concept of fraud in our sector. Unfortunately, many people who work in the higher education sector are shocked to hear that fraud is a concern for us. We're no different than any other sector in society as far as people trying to get recognition for work that they haven't actually done. So this is an excellent book. So highly recommended by all of us on the IESC, who in fact are all contributors to the book as well. Next, please. Some of you may already have signed up for this year's virtual session for the Baden-Wurttemberg Seminar. This is our annual program that is sponsored by the German state of Baden-Württemberg. You don't have to say the whole word. It's okay to say BW. So our BW seminar is usually an in-person trip to Germany to visit higher education institutions in the state of Baden-Württemberg. This year it's virtual, and it's a 3-hour program that will take place on October 27th, where you'll have a chance to hear from our colleagues at the Ministry of Science, Research, and Arts in Baden-Württemberg to learn about the German educational system, talking about opportunities for student exchange. And there'll be breakout rooms where you can meet with representatives of the various types of higher education institutions in Baden-Württemberg. And the application form is online right now. You can just Google ACRO BW Seminar and it'll take you right to the page. So it is open to anyone involved in higher education. This year, usually, as I mentioned, it's a live trip to Germany with a very small number of people, a dozen or so. This year, because it's virtual, it's open to many, many more people. So we're really looking forward to seeing you there, to have the chance to learn more about German education. And if you attend the virtual seminar this year, you are also eligible to apply for the in-person program. We're hoping, fingers crossed, that next year it can be in person, but you can also apply for the in-person program next year. This will be a great introduction to what that's all about. And then continuing on, we want to mention that our International Institute has been rescheduled. It is going to be a three-hour session program. So it's three-hour sessions virtually, virtual program led by instructors, and it will give you the opportunity to earn ACRO International badges. And registration is open for it right now. So if you're interested, please go to the web page. And I was just looking at Mike's comment. Yes, for math wizards for those who are, who know how to count credits, 3 times 3, a total of 9 hours. So thanks, Mike. So those are some updates from our ACRO side. Let's see, do we have any questions? I'll just answer one question orally. Can applicants apply multiple years for the BW seminar? The answer is you can apply as often as you wish. However, if you have won the prize one year, you may not be selected again, right, Robert? You have been involved with this. Do you want
Yes,
to give a little
that
information?
that's correct. I would encourage people that are not selected to try again. In the case of UT, for example, one of our folks, we wanted to go, and he got edged out because someone from another part of campus was selected instead. So I strongly encourage multiple applications until you finally get there. Once you're able to go on it, though, I should imagine that it would probably not, you'd probably not be selected again to attend on that. It's usually a one-time opportunity, but it is a great one. So I encourage all to consider it and to try and go on that seminar.
Yeah, I
Great,
just want
thanks.
to add, seminar is largely sponsored by the BW Ministry of Education. So their goal is to really give as many people opportunities as possible. So for that reason, if you have already been selected, you are welcome to apply, I would imagine. But with the goal of giving opportunities to others, I would imagine the chances would be less if the golden prize, as they've said, has already been.
Yeah, thank you, Robert and Emily. As I mentioned, when the program is live, which it has been for the last 30 years approximately, there's a small number selected, usually about a dozen people. And in each cohort that is selected, the selection group, which consists of ACRO and NAFSA representatives, are looking for a mixture of backgrounds and a mixture of roles of what you do in your particular position at your institution, so that there's balance as far as the representation of our higher education sector in the group that's selected. So it somewhat depends on who all applies within 1 year. But that's the beauty of having it virtually this year. You can attend this 3-hour virtual program, get more information about what the seminar is all about. But when it is in person, it's a very small group that's selected. And if you have applied before and haven't been selected, please try again. I think Shelby made a comment that she had applied, didn't make it the first time, but it depends not only on your own background, but also the cohort of other people who are applying. So I hope that helps with that. Let's see.
And I can try, I make a go at the German question.
Sure, go ahead. Would you please, I don't know if
Sure.
can everyone see the question? Yeah.
It says, given the BW seminar, can an entry be added for the Universities of Cooperative Education from German, a diploma and bachelor master now, I believe, since a prominent one is located in BW, the structure of diploma at least is different from that offered at Fachhochschulen and Universitäten, Technische Hochschulen. Yes, it's true. We do have the Bachelor FH Fachhochschule and the Diploma FH Fachhochschule, but I think you're right. We do not have one for the Berufsakademie, and you're right. There are prominent one. When I was on the BW, we visited a couple of them. So thank you for that, and we'll see. I'll talk to the group at our next meeting and see if we can't get that put in there. Both the diploma that was done prior to the Bologna reforms, and then the ones afterwards. All of them pretty much post Bologna are doing the standard bachelor master that the universities are doing, but things were different prior to that implementation, and we'll certainly take a closer look at that. They are, the German term is Berufsakademie, but the official translation is Universities of Cooperative Education, just as the translation for Fachhochschule is Universities of Applied Sciences. And by the way, those institutions love that better than the old terms of Fachhochschule and Berufsakademie.
Thanks, Robert. And I just wanted to mention, this is another opportunity you'll have if you're interested in the German higher education landscape in the state of Baden-Württemberg. There are actually 5 different kinds of higher education institutions in the state of Baden-Württemberg. And each state in Germany has higher education, education is administered state by state in Germany. So you'll see a Berufsakademie in the state of Baden-Württemberg. Other states in Germany also have something called a Berufsakademie, and you have to investigate and research for each state what a Berufsakademie is. So on October 27th at the virtual BW seminar, there will be representatives, we're planning anyway, to have representatives from the 5 different types of higher education institutions in the state of Baden-Württemberg in breakout rooms. So if you'd like to learn more about that, that'll be an opportunity you'll have.
And also too, I'm not sure exactly what Rob is asking, Rob Bennett, about the master's degrees, usually in business that don't require a bachelor's to get in. So I'm gonna provide an answer and welcome my colleagues to chime in as well. That makes an assumption, okay? And that assumption is that it is indeed a bachelor's degree called that, and it is awarded by a university in the UK or in Australia. And assuming that, okay, then to me, at least at the University of Texas, Austin, a bachelor's degree is a bachelor's degree is a bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter to me how you got in, unless it's something other than a bachelor's degree and is a different kind of qualification altogether. But how you got there is not as important to me as the fact that you got it. Now, in other countries, there are some things called master's degrees that are, in fact, not master's degrees at all, but Rob specifically mentioned UK and Australia, so I'm going to stick with that and not traipse over into France, where Emily and I have had loads of fun with bachelor's degrees. So to me, a bachelor's degree awarded by an Australian UK university is a bona fide bachelor's degree. It's the same as if the institution down the road from me in Austin awarded a degree based on transfer credit I would never give. It doesn't matter, okay? In the final analysis, that institution, which is accredited, awarded that degree, however, and based on whatever. So that's a valid bachelor's degree. And in Edge, I see no reason to mention master's degrees that may have been accessed by something other than what we say on that page, which is to say A-levels or Australian senior certificate or what have you. Right? Others can chime in if they want.
Yes, Robert, I'd like to comment. I think Rob is asking about something that falls into the category that I just saw a few days ago here in our evaluation work. I would call it an executive MBA, an MBA program at Heriot-Watt University in Scotland, which has 0 academic requirements for admission. 0. Not even a high school diploma, nothing. It's possible to get into that program with no formal education. And the way the program is set up, it has 9 modules or courses, and anyone can apply. And if you pass 2 modules in the program, you can stay in the program and end up finishing all 9 and graduate with that degree. And that's a scenario that I would call where I would not recommend a US degree comparability for that credential. We would call that similar to professional development in the United States, or non-credit adult education, non-credit executive education. Even though others in the program may have a bachelor's degree, may have a master's degree, may even have a PhD. The admission requirement to that program is 0 academic education. So we consider continuing education may be a very valid credential for use in the employment world, but as an academic credential, we do not recommend a degree comparability of any kind in the US system. So that's one example. And I don't know if that answers Rob's question. Should something like this be included in EDGE, would be a question.
And I have one follow-up question. The one you looked at, or the one you saw from Heriot-Watt, it looks absolutely no different from a true MBA that you can only access by means of a first degree.
Well, no, I would say because the admission requirements are different.
No, I'm sorry.
On
The diploma,
paper,
the diploma, yeah, the paper that comes out, the diploma, they are indistinguishable.
right, and what cued me into the fact that this is the executive MBA at Heriot-Watt, because Heriot-Watt is a recognized institution. It is authorized to grant degrees. What cued me in is the person had no previous formal education. At the secondary level, the person has said, we didn't check it, but they said they have a US GED. They have no formal education at all. And they got this MBA from Heriot-Watt. And this isn't the first time we've seen this, and maybe some of you have seen this. Heriot-Watt is most of the scenarios I've seen like this are the Heriot-Watt Executive MBA. So based on the fact that there's no academic admission requirement, and I didn't check this, but can a person go on to the next level of education at Heriot-Watt, which would be a PhD? I can't say yes or no right now off the bat because I didn't go there, because I had already made up my mind, but that would be another component to look at. Does this degree admit to a PhD at Heriot-Watt? I would guess no. Someone maybe can confirm that for me. But those are the things I would look at. Continuing education or professional development for use in the employment world, but not an academic credential.
The new one just popped up. And which trainings, online workshops, conferences have you found most helpful for the international secondary level credentials and exams, specifically to complement Acro Edge?
I would put that out to our colleagues who are participating today. Is that a question being asked to the IESC, or would you like to get input from everyone who's attending today? From the Acro side, I can say that we coordinate, and that's one of my jobs, one of my roles. I am an ex officio member of the IESC, representative from Acro, and we coordinate and aim to align our evaluation work between the IESC and what's in EDGE and the training. Would whoever asked the question like to clarify, or would someone like to add something to the chat about this? I hope I'm not misunderstanding the question.
And I would add that the Acro Institutes do, especially the beginning one. The second one, the Winter Institute, is more geared towards transfer credit. Although I suspect that we do cover high school credentials and stuff, or secondary level credentials, but we definitely do in the summer institutes. This year's virtual one in October is going to be scaled down. So that may not be the case necessarily in October, but we hope to be back in person next year, in which case I can assure you that the countries that are selected, they'll definitely cover secondary credentials, the whole ladder, educational ladder, and so forth, that spend time on those secondary credentials as well.
Yes, and on the page, on the page for the International Institute, there is a list of the content that's going to be covered. And I think it would be a great foundation for evaluators who are either new to evaluation or just beginning certain countries. So let's see, I'm trying to get that content right now. let's see. Anyone else? Any comments or?
Well, I know that ACRO also offers self-paced learning, the international series, and there is one module that is, what do you call that? They have different modules, for example, transfer credit, Europe and the Bologna system, and then they have one external exam-based system. Um,
Yes, and Julia is adding some information in our chat also. Julia is my colleague at ACRO, who is also on our session today. Thank you, Ina, for sharing the URL of our training. Any other questions or chat items? Thanks everyone for your comments about how helpful you found the ACRO training sessions and our former summer and winter institutes, which are now being integrated into our International Institute. So just a few more things about how ACRO can help you in your work. Our job is to make your job easier. You can join our EDGE mailing list. You can join the new Google-based activities list, international activities listserv. We also have the ACRO Connect bi-weekly newsletter. And you are already familiar with EDGE. If you're not already subscribed to it, you can get updates there. We also have a fund for supporting research in international education, specifically in country profile updates, white papers on subjects of interest in our international education community. So we invite you to take a look at the Gloria R. Nathanson Research Fund for International Education. Gloria is one of our leaders, and we've honored her by naming this research fund after her. So that's another opportunity for you to contribute and get some financial backing for funding costs that you incur in doing this type of research. Any other questions or comments for today? Before our webinar today, I imagined that there'd be a lot of people on vacation this week and not with us, or super busy at your desk. So if it looks like there are no more questions or comments from all of you, thank you very much for attending. It's been our pleasure to be your leaders in this session today, and keep in touch, and we wish you all the best for the beginning of your new academic year. It's a tough one, and hang in there. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.